Alright, hello everyone, my name is Shep, welcome back to the Butcher's Circus. Today we are going to be playing against Not Stormy, and we are going to be playing with, I believe I called it the strongest beginner team, because it is the kind of stress team that you can, just get into the circus and make it without even having any of the special trinkets. Though I do believe I am running more specialized trinkets, that you get later on with the prestige tree, but it is still pretty much the same idea. And we are going to be playing against quite an interesting team that my opponent has here. So it has a flagellant with content of absolution, which out of the bloom is going to be quite tough to deal with, because obviously with the content of absolution, every time the flagellant gets hit by anything, he heals 10 stress. That's really powerful against the stress team. And also that Man at Arms is going to be using that bolster, so all of his characters are going to be benefiting from minus 15% stress taken. So the match is going by really fast here. He goes for the bolster, he goes for the battle bell to counter whatever dodge I have. I do have the monkey's paw on my Hound Master, so that is a good play by him. I immediately go for this command because I realized that, well, since I did go first, he has a bit of extra dodge, and he also has the dodge of the Jester. Plus, my characters kind of need an accuracy. I mean, with the Crusader and the Hound Master, they have pretty low base accuracy. Immediately we go for this Crusader Zealous Accusation, an amazing crit on that flagellant. It's so rare to see Zealous Accusation crit, but when it does, oh my goodness. And that flagellant's already at like 1/3 of his HP. And the stress is rising. He's already at 29, though of course every time he gets hit he's gonna heal, but oh well. And then we go for a Hound Master, we get another crit. Like, this is devastating. This is totally devastating his team. It's only round 1 and we're already applying massive stress to his entire team, even with that numbing instance on the Man at Arms, reducing his stress taken by pretty much half with the bolster. It is totally wild. Here my opponent goes for a guard on that Jester. He doesn't want him to get focused down. He doesn't want me to try disrupt him with a stun, except that's not really the kind of play I typically go for when I have an Abomination. I don't try to stun enemy Jesters, I try to blight them and stress them out. So I'm just gonna de-transform, go for a V-Smile, and now we have an activated Riposte, which is going to be quite useful here, because you did see that he was trying to focus on by Abomination with that Flagellant Spanish. So by going with the Riposte, that means he's going to take a lot of damage to the face every time that happens. So this is like not a really good matchup for me, because my opponent has a lot of DUT, he has a lot of anti-stress, and my backline's already eating unbelievable amounts of blight. But they should be able to survive for a few rounds, enough to potentially get the enemy afflicted. That's kind of what they're trying to do here. We're trying to raise my opponent in terms of stress. So he goes for an Exsanguinate, eats a crit for 14 from this Abomination. How do you even roll for so much, Shep? Well, after you transform and de-transform, you have a damage buff from the transformation. Plus I have the Spiked Chain Trinket, which is also giving me more damage from range skills, and oh my god, the Crusader gets another crit. Look at that Flagellant. He just used his Exsanguinate. He's already almost back down to that sword. He's almost afflicted. It's round 2. He's a Gauntlet of Absolution Flagellant. This is totally wild. My opponent, though, decides to go for a Dirk Stab. Gets a crit for 18 crit on my Abomination, because he does have that blood red coin, so it's giving him a lot of extra damage, and wow, it just crits all over the damn place. We just go for another Hound's Harry crit. Like, the amount of stress that Hound's Harry just outputs with that Crimson Hook, and sometimes when it crits, it's just wild. So you see me highlighting there the Abomination's transformation. I do not want to let this A-bomb die without 2 transformations. That is extremely important to me. If he gets the second transformation off, I do immense amounts of horror to the enemy team, so that is 100% what I want to go for here. I do not want him to just kill my Abomination unless I get the second transformation off, though. I decide that going for a guard won't really be the best play, because he can just go Dirk Snap to bypass that guard, so I'm just trying to pretty much look at kind of a danger levels kind of idea here. I'm gonna bring his Flagellant down to that store, and then just go for a Hound's Harry potentially. So in case we do have to trade characters, I can trade my Abomination, which has already used 1 transformation, for his Flagellant, which would be a wonderful trade. Now I'm just gonna go for another Hound's Harry, another crit. That command buff, giving us 20 accuracy and 4% crit. That is just totally wild. It has been crits all over the damn place here. That's the Flagellant already rapturous by like the middle of round 3. Also at that store, the Jester goes hopeless. The Man at Arms is already afflicted with the numbing instance, which makes him take half stress. It's, oh my goodness, this is the craziest match, the craziest stress match I've seen in a while. Usually it's kind of goes a little a little slower than this, but this is totally wild. He drops a finale on my doggy. He realizes that my doggy is doing a lot for my team, you know, with all those crits, plus the bleeds. I mean, his entire team, if he lets the doggy like do another Hunt's Harry, his entire team is just gonna crumble. So he decides to go for it, rolls for 16, which is a pretty high roll, manages to just bring my doggy down from half HP to 0. So kind of an interesting play by my opponent, but he is gonna allow that Abomination to potentially stay alive, unless he gets a kill right now on this Abomination. So he's gonna go for maybe an Exsanguinate, maybe a Punish, but he's actually gonna go Exsanguinate on my Crusader. So that was kind of an interesting play my opponent did here. Instead of eating the Repulse and a potential death blow, he decides to go for kind of a Hail Mary play on my Crusader, because if he did get that bleed, my Crusader, which right now looks very, very healthy, would suddenly, you know, pretty much lose half his HP over the following 3 rounds. And of course my Man-at-Arms is already gonna die from Blight in like 2 rounds. The Abomination's at death's door, so if you manage to hit that, this would still be quite kind of a good situation for him. So I just decided to transform to do all that horror. Look at that, 14 horror tick just from the Plague Doctor acting. Does even more stress, a lot of stress being applied to that Chester, because of course since he finality already has those debuffs. Now my bomb is at death's door, so I definitely don't want to let him die. He decides to go for an incision. Fortunately he doesn't get the 25% death blow here. And I'm thinking, well, do I want to go de-transform Bile, or do I want to go de-transform Heal? Well, my win condition is stress. My Abomination has already done pretty much everything he needs to do. I just decided, you know what, screw it, let's go Bile. Let's get the damage through. I still have 1 command buff, I believe, so if I manage to get a crit here, that would be absolutely wild. But unfortunately there's no crits, even with that pretty high crit chance, 16 on each character, but that's still a lot of stress being applied because of the Wretch's Cloak, and that is the Blight's pretty much guaranteed from the Spike Chain. So that Man-at-Arms, even once again, even with that Numbing Instance, he's pretty much dead to a Zell's accusation right now because of that horror. So I do believe that's what I'm gonna go for. I still have the choice of dropping another command, though is it really worth it dropping another command here? I mean, 1 was enough to pretty much destroy his entire team in an absolute brutal fashion. So I'm just gonna start dropping Bellows here, because that's gonna apply massive stress to the Chester. There's gonna be an act out from the Plague Doctor, which does just enough stress to get the Chester to death's door. And right now, unless he goes for some kind of healing action on his Chester, he will die from the horror. So that is that horror being applied, the Chester just goes down, and that's gonna be another crit on the Flagellant. A lucky 35% death blow on that Man-at-Arms, and now the Flagellant is gonna act. He's gonna take all that horror. He's still alive, but he has minus 100% healing skills. So even if he goes for a heal right now, he would only heal himself for 6, so a Zell's accusation would drop him right back down to 0 and he would have a heart attack. But he gets an act out from Rapturous, goes Reign of Sorrows, totally unnecessary, and just surrenders. So that was absolutely wild what this team can just do, just totally crazy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this really quick match, and I'll see you again another time. Cheers.